Just two conscious guys talking, where conscious male leaders come together and have a discussion that is deep, that is nourishing, that allows us to see the illumination of consciousness that's unfolding progressively for men that are waking up in the world, and where you can get insights on your own awakening as a man, and also for amazing women that want to learn more about men's challenges and struggles that have created some of the dysfunction we've seen within men in its society, often called, quote unquote, the patriarchy and other terms. What created it? What is the genesis of it all? What can we do about it today to empower men to be all that they're meant to be and to support the awakening of consciousness for men and women and all?
All right, there he is, Mr. Flourish. Patrick, good to be with you.
Thank you, Daniel. Happy to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Wow, so yeah, it's so fun to be with you. Body double, right? If I were to do an intro, it'd be a
Wow.
body double, right? For who now again?
Oh,
Becky
Daniel, you're making me blush. As we've briefly gotten to know each other, and I send the story of my life to your desk, yes, there are some of these interesting opportunities that have cropped up in the field of my life. One of them was being the body double for David Beckham.
Yeah.
That was cool. He's a really nice guy, and I was blessed to have that gig because I was really good at soccer. Came up playing football if you're not from America, but
Yeah.
soccer here, and that qualified me to be the stunt man for all of his commercials.
Wow. So you're doing stunts in the commercials and everything. You must be pretty talented with the football.
Yeah, Daniel, that was a fun game for me, a big part of my life growing up, and it opened that interesting door. Plus, we were the same height, weight, build, so I was
Wow.
a good fit for it.
That's wild, isn't it? That's just totally wild. Um, yeah, so you're funny because you're funny to me in this regard. You says you have quite a breadth of your background there, Daniel. And I'm like, how about you? You've been in with the bands, filmmaking, writing music, being the body double, soccer. You're a yoga teacher. You do this, you do that. You got a lot of background, a lot of things yourself, and you definitely seem like one of those. Historically, especially one of those adventurous souls, like, oh, we got to get into that now. Let's try that, right? Like that type type of.
Yes, sir. I came down on this earth to taste it all, to take it to the edge of what I was capable of, and then let it go to see what else there was to play with. So it's been an interesting journey of being what at once I was kind of uh, reticent about, the jack of all trades, the master of none. But I learned that there was another part to that quote, which was more validating, and it had to do with just the richness of that scope of human experience. And I've enjoyed the dance. It's taken me in interesting directions. My heart has led me to the next thing where from the outside you'd say, Pat, don't quit soccer. You're going to be a pro. I said, yeah, but my heart says music. Go west. See what that dream looks like. And to give myself to that, all of my energy, and then find yoga, find a moment in Shavasana and hear my soul saying, go in that direction. And it wasn't a hard stop from music at the time, which I still loved. The yoga helped me write better music. But eventually, the more you do those practices, the more it kind of changes the way you see the world. And what I saw was that this direction to cultivate spirit, not that you can't do that in music or in the world, but at that point, I needed that deep dive into practice to reorient myself with my humanity, to kind of come down from expectation, and clinging to what I wanted from all of that. There was
Wow.
suffering in that, yeah.
Because it sounds like it's probably a young age. Again, some of this is intuitive, maybe, but at some young age, I feel you were like, oh, I want to be kind of like a star or something, is my guess. I could be completely wrong, but I think you.
Bingo.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. Like your journey. Let's talk about the journey now, because that we started it. We talked a little bit about it, then we talked about where you are now for a second. So let's talk about the journey then, because you had that. Like I always love the Jim Carrey thing. I'm not the biggest Jim Carrey fan as him as a person, as a personality, to be honest. He's very funny. He's very interesting, the things he has to say too, and very illuminating when he says, I want everybody to get whatever they want so they can find out that's not it, right? That whole line or whatever he said. Like, I think that's kind of what I'm hearing, like what you started to discover before it even got to where you're like extremely famous or something like that. But like, tell us that journey of like, yeah, that's what I want. I'm going there. And no matter what, to where you are today, tell us about that.
Well, Daniel, that experience of seeking the thing that you think is going to be it, and that not being it continues to happen. I just moved into this beautiful home with my girlfriend, and together we were able to afford it. And it's like a dream space for us. And this isn't it. There's always going to be something else that you seek, that you want. And this wanting energy is something that I've just sat with and continue to work with. And again, that desire, which is clear in the sacred texts, is what causes this restlessness, and it's never enough. So these are kind of the trappings of the world. Can you enjoy these things but not get lost or trapped by them? So it continues to unfold. But if we go back to the young man, the boy, there was always a vision of greatness. And I would say I was quite grandiose as a child. And in the men's work, we kind of learn about how that holds us back at some point, that we have to come down from this vision of greatness to appreciate what actually is all of our folly, all of our strivings, all of our accomplishments. It's so many things, but perfectionism has been the cross that I have to bear. And it really came from my father's deep connection, belief, support, and kind of dictate that I was the best. I got this language a lot. And I did great things as a young kid. I would hit walk-off grand slam home runs in the Little League World Series championship game. And I knew that I could. Like, I was the kid that just was hungry to be at the plate when the game was on the line because I believed in myself. And more often than not, I was creating these miraculous moments. But when I didn't, it was crushing to me because I demanded perfection out of me. It was just how I was conditioned, culture. There's a lot of blessings in that. It's given me energy to pursue ambitious dreams, to build Flourish, to devote myself to this yoga practice more or less uninterrupted, because I learned a lot about discipline, dedication, being an athlete, and all of those things. So two sides to every coin, a lot of blessings and a lot to bear, to unpack, to come down from. And that's what spirituality has really helped me do, to kind of deflate my wanting from the world and to come more into appreciation at everything that's already been given, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's an enormous gift at one level, like you said, to be instilled with such belief when you're younger, that I expect and I demand, maybe even, but like I expect, I just, and I relish and I get excited by the idea of doing something magical that everybody can witness. Oh,
Let's go. You're right, Daniel. It was fun. And I was meditating, as a kid, and I was going through before the games and seeing everything happen. Nobody taught me to do that, but I would see something go wrong and I would rewind the tape in my head and go back and make the save as the goalkeeper or hit the ball if I had struck out. So I was training myself. And part of me is curious about the meditate and make money program that you run. And that if some of these qualities are what you try to instill in people, the sense of belief in possibility.
Oh, totally. I mean, if you look through my testimonials, especially with like energy scan training and all that stuff, but even business a lot too, one of the number one words you'll find, probably if we did an analysis of the number one word, it's confidence. They say, he gave me the confidence, right? And that's what I always come up with, because, you know, no matter where somebody is, you know, I just see the possibility. I see what their potential is. And then when I'm in my more warrior mode, I want to say, and a spiritual warrior mode, I'm like, okay, this is it. You're supposed to go this way now. Go. I get more in that demanding kind of energy in a sense. And I just expect it. And if they won't come up to it, then I'm like, all right, that's your choice then. All right, that's for you. And I could be very soft and gentle as well, but extremely, you know. So, but that's where I would say that's the number one thing, is that I can really raise people's belief up where they didn't. That's what's happened with my kids, for example. That's why I really appreciated your story about belief. They're both very, you know, quite high achievers with school and other things, but it's because they have it in it apparently, but it's also because of their parents and their dad. Just like, you set your mind to it, you achieve it, just do it, you know.
Thanks,
And
Daniel.
they got that really drilled in really good. It's like, and to the point, and I always think about this, like with my one that's off at college now doing wonderful things, is the great grades and director of student involvement, whatever, all the, you know, all the whatever things she do, leadership. And but with her, I just remember like even bullying her at times, like, but to me it was like a way of toughening her. Like, in a brief moment, it wasn't like I was constantly bullying her at all, but like we'd be playing a video game or something. She was still like 7 or 8 or something. I'd be like, she couldn't win, and I'd be like, come on now, bring it. You can, like, yeah, she, and I, to a point, maybe it was a little too much at times, but like she'd come down, you know, maybe even cry and all that stuff. But I swear, like, I still wouldn't trade it ultimately, because moments like that, I think, really, positively or negative, I don't know yet, you know, who knows, but
Sure.
did make a big difference in terms of like when challenge comes up, oh, not a problem, raise up. You know, that's the way that they operate, because that's how what they see dad doing it with doing business and everything. It's like, oh, we got a challenge, whatever. It's just another day, you know. Like, so that's what I do with my clients too. I give a lot of support, and when they're like, yeah, I just don't know what to do anymore with whatever, it's like, then I'm there to tune in, and then I'm there to raise them up to a level of understanding, awareness, and also belief and confidence that they can persevere and move through that, whatever has come up, whatever has arisen.
I think it's a
So,
great gift, Daniel. And I want to ask a little bit about what you see as these obstacles that people are up against, which keeps them from that connection with confidence, with this belief in themselves. But just to kind of weave in some wisdom from the great masters, Yogananda wrote a little book, Paramahansa Yogananda,
yes.
called Autobiography of a Yogi, as you probably know, but a little pamphlet called Be Victorious in Life. And I handed this out. I probably have 10 little copies, and I just disseminate them when people need, as
Yes.
George Harrison said, some regrooving. And
Yes.
the main thesis of this book is that if there's a devil, it's I can't consciousness. Because when you really assert and think that you can't do something, there's no space. You're just stuck and you're done and it's over. So if you can replace that thought, and first you have to get quiet enough to see that it's on repeat and holding you back, and start to maybe fake it till you make it and assert I can, becomes possible. It's not guaranteed that you'll get what you want, but all of a sudden, you know, you can take the next step.
Right.
That chasm between getting from where we are to where we want to be creates a lot of resistance, and it keeps us from, you know, trying. So slowly, and the mindset which you instill in people, which gives them the sense, okay, I can. Maybe I don't believe it, but Daniel said I can, and I believe him. I trust him.
Right.
play that, and that takes you to incredible places. We don't know where, but it's a great
Right.
start. So that's what I would say to anyone listening. Where do you hold yourself back inside your mind
Mm-hmm.
by really, feeling like it's the not enough thing, it's I can't, but flip the script and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it sounds like you cultivated that again on your own, and some of it was your upbringing too, though, right? So you had that, you took it to other levels on your own. Like for me, what I did is I wasn't really, super good at a lot of things, but I was good at some things. One of them was just, again, I've talked about it many times, I feel like on this show, but like little things like being good at pitching and the little leagues and stuff. So I hear you with the World Series. I didn't go to that level, but I wasn't, I was no good at hitting because I wasn't focused on hitting. And then I needed glasses. I didn't even know that. So that didn't help either. But I was really got pretty doggone good at pitching to where I couldn't hit, but they still put me on the all-star team because I just stood out. I was doing really well. And then also as a person, I think I stood out, even though I was quiet. Like they're just like, yeah, he's an all-star, like anyway, but
You
but
are an all-star.
yeah. And so the thing is that, yes, I am. Okay. But the thing is with that, Patrick, is I would create imaginary worlds, right? When I was throwing the ball against the house, when I was learning the pitch on my own, and I just imagine striking people out. Just I put a box on I put the box, to strike my little tiny strike zone that I got to hit it in the air, and then if I want to hit the sides, whatever. And even back then, like back now, it's common for kids to do this. But back then, even when I was before 10 years old, I'm working on a sinker, I'm working on screwballs, I'm working on change of pace, I'm working on all of it, split finger, you name it, right? So working on all of it and actually using some of it with some good effects in games. And like that was not common back then. Now the kids do all kinds of things, but because they get all kinds of coaching and whatnot. But there's all the videos and everything. And for me, I was looking at books and
Right?
digging information, right? Because that was really of interest, and that's always been true for me. If something is really of interest to me, it is as though you're unstoppable. But it's got to be something. That's one of the things I heard I heard recently. 10x is easier than 2x. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but um, what Dan, what's his Sullivan, right? Is it
Sure.
Sullivan? Yeah, I'm
Yep.
having a brain fart for a second. But anyway, he wrote that book, and together with Benjamin something or another, I forget his last name. I don't know 100%. Anyway, so but the bottom line is in that book, he talks about many great things. I don't know if he said in that book or if he said it somewhere else. He actually might have said it somewhere else. But he talks about like whatever you can become fascinated, mesmerized with is where you should focus. That's your genius. That's where you're going to be a genius. So for me, it was pitching at that time, right? Now it's like helping people be energy scatters, tune into people, do healing, and to go from the beginning or struggling as a healer to go into six figures or well beyond, right? Like that, I'm fascinated with that. These people are like, I'm just a little healer. I don't know and they're like really powerful people, right? And then you just build them up, raise their level of belief really high because inside they really have it in them. Not everybody might, to be able to raise up or to be willing to raise up. And so, for me, I want to work with those people. So my point is, I think the more we can identify what we can really get fascinated, mesmerized, like Dan Sullivan talks about, like so genius, because that's where I've seen this, and then put my mind to it, so to speak, or put my full attention to it. The results are through the charts. Um, so that's first thing, But then, of course, I'm your sacred purpose, so it all has to do with awakening too. And what I've seen with awakening is that I can allow the manifestation, and I could destroy you, beast, which has been unleashed in other ways, like silly things, even like Monopoly, right? Okay, everybody's crushed. You're all dead already. Like seriously, I know exactly what to do. I know how to manipulate the energy of the game. I know how to manipulate you. I'll get every deal I want. I'll get everything. Your properties are already mine. Like just like an insane, like dictator, I own the world person, like goes into the game And of course I win, and then people don't want to play with you anymore. But like, but it's like the sense of like, I'm in total command. And so my point is that's a fun experience, but it might have been fun for the other people, and you may not have fun again because they won't want to play with you again. And you could even maybe, poison relationships. So, like the ego, at my point, can get out of control. So we're talking about like, yeah, let's raise up our belief. That's so important. But then there's like, okay, but then again, you could get too attached to the outcome, and you don't need to be. I have examples in my life in business, and I just always like to use sports and stuff and other silly stuff, but like tennis. I was talking about my 8 weeks in a row playing in a league, and I won every single match, every single round, not because I was a better player, but because I was in such a connection. It was just easy. Everything was easy. And it was just like, it didn't matter because they were doing mixed pairs every single round. So you could be with the worst player against the best team, and we still win because I was in such a energetic invincibility. But I wasn't
a lot of
attached.
power, Daniel. It's a lot
Yeah.
of responsibility, and you're working with such a wide variety of people who are perhaps ambitious, amassing in the material world. And what's the spiritual injunction or framework to kind of responsibly cultivate
Right.
abundance? Because that's a slippery slope. We're all susceptible to greed and lust.
Yes.
And how can we navigate the world,
Right.
compassion, and not kind of leave a wake of destruction from all of our go-getting? How have you navigated that? Because you've built a lot of success, a wonderful following, you have a great purpose-driven life, but I'm sure at times, there are energetic obstacles which would set you back spiritually if
Mm-hmm.
you're aware of them,
Mm-hmm.
mindful, and in a
Yeah.
loving space. Yeah.
Building what I was doing with the healers at first, it was just like, go, more of that energy. And then pretty
Sure.
quickly though, I started being like, all right, I can do this, but seems like they're interested in just kind of playing around and get a few clients and developing their gifts. Let's just focus there. It's just easy money and it's easier for me. I don't have to, be so tough on them, right?
Sure.
And, and so that was helpful for a while until it wasn't interesting to me anymore, right?
Mhm.
Okay, there's something missing. What's missing? Well, all that like oh, you can make a lot of money and you you can of course to help a lot of people. That's what the point is ultimately, right?
Sure.
But
Very
like
good.
bring them into that sense of that level of certainty and strength with the right people, of course, is what's
Well,
had
that's
to come
interesting, Daniel, because
around.
you're addressing the individuals in front of you, and you
Mm-hmm.
hear these dharma talks and tales of, like,
Mm-hmm.
ancient senseis who will
Mm-hmm.
come and they'll just, like, hit them with the stick on top of the head, or yell at them intensely because they're being lazy, and then the sensei is walking out laughing and it's just filled with joy and light, and that student needed to go right, the other person might need to go left. So you intuitively channeling what a person needs to rouse them to their potential is
Right.
like what a great coach does, and you're
Right.
coaching these people in business.
Right.
That's something that also I relate with, because I've had hard coaches in the past as an athlete. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't take it personally when somebody, and at times it wasn't loving or, spiritually directed, but it got me to perk up and to step up. And in yoga, I've sought pretty rigid teachers as I traveled through the world, in China, studying Kung Fu, in Thailand, sitting in Buddhist monasteries, and in India for 18 months. The teachers I found were strict, and some
Mm-hmm.
people left because they didn't like it. And I understand that not everyone is for you, but based on my conditioning as an athlete, I really enjoyed that because I can practice and play beyond myself when there's a teacher who's holding me really high, who's just demanding that I come up to here. And then I'm usually here, but with this influence, I can totally go beyond myself. And as I teach yoga, that's really my intention, similar to you, to hold the energy so people meet me here and they're
Mm-hmm.
coming in tired, and maybe they've been scrolling for 2 hours waiting to come in, and they just need to wake up to step into their strength. And that's a great gift. I'll keep coming back to that person's class, you know, coaching sessions, whatever it is, if they rouse me to go beyond myself. That's a great gift.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, that's, there's so much into it. You know, I feel like it's really reading the moment, reading the person, reading everything, and just really playing the right notes, sort of. You know, we're all playing notes, so to speak. We're making music together, as one of my music industry mogul friends talks about. Like, we're just all making music together, right? I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And so you got the chords, ba 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 ba, and you got all, you know, like there's so many metaphors, right? And so, yeah, I mean, with yoga, I would imagine, um, you know, I obviously, I want to say obviously, because every spiritual man does some yoga, right? So obviously I've done some yoga over the years, but um, I don't know. I feel like, what are the limits? I wanted to ask a really different question here. Like, well, seeing as this is a men's show, maybe it'd be interesting to ask it in this way. So one of my things with yoga would be, I'm a guy, you know, I'm not that flexible. Um, in my body, right? I could say, well, I'm flexible in other ways, but my body's not that flexible. I can't keep that. I find men, right? The men that are sensitive to guys that don't have all the flexibility like women do in some of these classes or videos or whatever it is. And then I gravitate towards them a lot of times because they're like, okay, do this. I'm like, perfect. Like, okay, I can do it at least, right? But hopefully it's at least challenging, right? At least a little challenging, right? Somewhat challenging. And, but I find that for men, a lot of times my experience is they won't even, I think it's so great. It's starting to take off now, right? You see athletes and everything getting into yoga. But there's all the different ideas about yoga, right? Oh, you know, this is a great way to get more flexibility and it's good for your health and mindfulness. And then there's the spiritual aspect, right? Now, it has nothing to do with that stuff. That's all just the secondary stuff. Really, what it's about is something completely different. And, you know, that's what people got it all wrong. It's not about just poses and everything. It's about spiritual attunement or awakening or whatever, right?
It's a great topic, Daniel, and I could talk and riff on this
Right.
for days. I've got 15 hours of teacher training, which I'm
Right,
leading
right.
starting tonight through the weekend. And this is just where I open my channel and allow the truth to come through, whatever, you know, I can assemble that feels correct. And I'm always praying to the lineages that what is transmitted is authentic. And just a side note, you're wonderfully authentic. I love talking to you, Daniel. When you laugh, I feel safe. Like I'm with really somebody who I love and trust. So thank you for being you. As far as yoga goes in men, it's very interesting. First off, there's a barrier of entry because men think yoga is for women.
Yeah.
Because of the commodification of yoga, the Lululemon landscape that we live in. And if you go to yoga classes, 85% of the practitioners are female. At Flourish, you know, the company that I run, which brings people around the world on retreat, we put events on, we have trainings, 85% are women. It's very interesting. We're going to Peru in 2 weeks and we have 50% men. And I'm so excited.
Yay!
Yes. And it's going to be a whole different experience, a different energetic composition. And I'm really excited to see how that plays. And I think Flourish is attracting more men because we're starting to do men's work and we have men's retreats. And this invitation for men to be together is deeply needed right now. And if you mention it to someone who doesn't even know that this exists, they're like, I want that. You know, it's craving for camaraderie in that way. So men say yoga's not for me, it's for girls. But traditionally, yoga was always for men, which is the interesting thing. And not to say there wasn't yoginis practicing 5,000 years ago, but in the Brahmin culture of, you know, Vedic India, it was guru to student, and it was a masculine thing for thousands and thousands of years. So it just recently opened up and it attracted a lot of women, which is great. So just to clear that up, it's for everybody. And it's also for men if you think it's not for you. Welcome to the club if you're stiff. You know, I'm the expert here and I'm stiff and I've got to fight the good fight on a regular basis. If I go on a hike or a bike ride, or I try to play soccer again, the backs of my knees, the calves, the hips, I can barely touch my toes most days. And then I work the practice and I come back and I have a range of motion, and that's great, but
Mm,
that's not the goal. And we're talking about yoga, which means union. And
mhm,
most people think of that as this physical practice of asana, which is part of hatha yoga. But not to get too far into it, there's four main rivers or paths of yoga. One is called karma yoga, which is the yoga of selfless service. One is bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. You never have to do downward facing dog. You
mm,
just open your heart and you worship the divine, and you can see the divine in your child, in your partner, and you continue to see God in everyone and open your heart. Then there's Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of the mind, which is about self-inquiry and looking into who am I? Again,
mm,
no
mm,
stretching. But of course, you become more flexible, and who you think you are expands to who you really are. And
mhm.
that's quite interesting. They're all happening simultaneously. If you're doing downward facing dog, you're in self-reflection. There should be, I don't want to shit on anybody. It's nice if there's some sense of devotion and heart, feeling, emotional subject is yoga.
Mhm.
So, what suits you? Are you intellectual? You know, then read the scriptures and find your way home through them. Are you emotional? Are you action oriented? Are you physical? So, it's a moving target. It doesn't have to be one way for your whole life. And at Flourish, we try to show people all of the different paths that lead to the same mountain peak through tea ceremony, through laughter, through intimacy practices, hypnotherapy, like what connects you to yourself. And there's just so many ways to do that. Those are the practices, the vehicles which take you across to the other side. And once you
Mm,
cross, you let the vehicle go and you're free. I
mhm,
still need my vehicle,
mm,
and, you know,
mhm.
my practices, because they keep me connected. They keep me close to um, the awareness which I seek to string through my days, but I lose it all the time. So the breath brings me
Yeah.
back. Hmm.
I mean, like they say with Yogananda, right? That the day he awoke and he told his master, I've awakened, or whatever, however he put it. All he said is, "Oh, very good, very nice. Here's a broom. Go sweep out the temple or whatever."
Right.
I love that because the ego will be like, I've attained enlightenment. I've got this thing now.
Yeah. Good luck with that one, buddy. But
It's
these are the
literally the
pitfalls.
opposite of attaining enlightenment, so to speak.
Yep. We identify with it and we ride that one all the way. The spiritual guy, I'm still playing that out with this costume. You know, I'm presenting as a spiritual looking dude. You know, I've got my golden thread t-shirt and my long hair. I cut my beard to fit in with my woman's family who just couldn't deal with all of this different. But, you know, it's not the clothes that make the yogi. Put on the ochre robes, you're still horny, clinging, frustrated. And it's a process. It's a lifetime, it's many lifetimes. And I think that clinging and desire to be enlightened is one of the ones that has to go as well. It's just
Yeah.
a fool's game, but we're all gonna be up against that.
It is such a fool's game. It's just so laughable, really. I mean, but compassion for those that think it's something to seek, right? I mean, so yeah, that's it's kind of one of those unfortunate things, but it should. I want to say it should be, right? Of course, that's not accurate, but it should be as though, like everybody has been, should be enlightened already, like we are, right? So it's like everybody should
Yeah.
already realize you're enlightened, but that's the thing we're trying to release is our sense that we're not already what we are, right? So
Mm.
in that sense, right now, it's so hilarious to me. It really is. So like one of my students, because that's part of my job too, I feel, is awakening people. I mean, that's part of the path I feel with everything. So like, that's always part of the path with me too. So I have a longer time student. Towards the end, I just keep testing her out because she decided to, well, whatever. She does a different kind of business. She doesn't just do healing and all that sort of stuff only. She has another type of business. But I just, towards the end, I'll be questioned. I just keep testing her. I'll be like, boy, it seems like you're getting really lazy. You should be doing more than you are. Now get going. And she'd be like, I don't know. I think I'm good. I think I'm good. And then I'll be like, are you sure? I don't think you are. I think you need to get to work. And always with like a hint of sarcasm. Because for her and her path at that time, it wasn't about pushing. She'd done all that. She'd done all the attaining and conquering and all that stuff. For her, it was just simply about, I need to just completely surrender, completely be one with the one. And that's how she lives right now, I know there could be another season for her before her lifetime's over, but that's her thing right now. She's asked me, do you think I'm spiritual bypassing? I said, well, I could tell you that, but I don't know if that would serve you. I don't know if that's going to help you. You'll probably just argue with me anyway. Oh, so,
Daniel, it's
each
interesting.
person needs a different medicine is my point. Yeah.
Well, that's part of your job is to help people look in the right direction. One of my mentors says he's like a spiritual traffic cop. He's maybe pointing to go that way or go that way, but eventually you're driving the car. You decide when to put on the brake, when to hit the gas, and you're making those decisions. So I think as far as awakening goes, you can't rip the skin off the snake. That would be violent and it wouldn't work anyway. So people have a lot of karma and things that are unseen that have to run off, play out, and we're creating karma all the time. I think part of what these dictates of spirituality, like the yamas and niyamas and yoga, these 10 precepts or the 10 commandments, all of these lists of 10 of virtue, are there to keep us from continuing to amass more karma because, being truthful keeps our game clean. When we lie, we have to work that out. That has to come back and bear its fruit. So avoid creating more trouble for yourself. And then there's still a backlog that has to run off, and your student will have to navigate her life, and hopefully with good guidance and support and faith and all of these things. And we can trust she's going exactly where she needs to go.
Right. Exactly.
But a very interesting role to play in life, Daniel, to be this shepherd of spirit towards, a higher state. It's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Right. It is. It's really what it's all about at its essence. So, but there's different vehicles. It's about, you're not saying it's about yoga, but like yoga is part of the vehicle, right? For me, part of the vehicle is business. All right, we're going to do this thing and we're going to do it through business, because you're going to say you don't have, let's say I said it's all about spirituality. Well, that wouldn't suit me because I have my own stuff I'm working through with money and power and all that stuff. So that's part of what I'm helping other people with. So I feel like there's a lot in that, right? Like you said, like the medicine of yoga is great for me. It's really helpful to me. So that's what you teach. So because that's part of your deal, right?
And the life as the curriculum, the school being everything that we do is an opportunity to learn, to let go. And we talked a little bit about this beautiful home. I moved in with my partner. She has 3 kids, which is a great gift and a much more challenging yoga than forward bending to relate with these people that have personalities and to coexist and to keep coming back to the heart and seeing past the veil of appearances of these people and understanding that I'm dealing with another version of God here, the soul behind the seemingly apparent body, confronted, by all that comes up in relationship. There's a whole dance of yoga there, if you will. And you don't have to use your relationships as a yoga purification to bring you into union, to destroy separation, and to see beyond the illusion. But you can, and you can do that in business, and you can do that as you're walking down the street and seeing strangers. That's what yoga would hopefully do for somebody. It's like yoga off the mat is what we talk about. Cultivate some subtlety, some sensitivity, expand your awareness, realize you're more than who you think you are, stabilize in that to some degree, keep touching it, keep nourishing this sense of I am beyond who I think I am. Personality, body, thoughts, energies, all of those are coming and going, yet there's this presence which sees all that is in flux. Cool. Touch that. And then can you be standing in front of somebody and see that within them? That's what namaste means. I see the same thing that lives in me, in you, but can you? How often and for how long? And that's like, so I'm just a toddler, if that's the prerequisite for actually being a yogi, is to be living without separation all the time. I catch a glimpse in 20 minutes when I'm sitting still watching my breath for 19 minutes and 56 seconds. It's just this play. I'm watching that, which is helpful. I'm training my mind to watch. But yeah, life is the field of awakening, and yoga helps me. It could be crochet. It could be whatever it is that gets the mind to chill down so you can start to see things as they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so great. Boy, if given, that you got that perfectionism, trait that you have, I think that what is possible for people like you, and for specifically for you, I get, is a really higher state of impact and attunement is possible for you. It reminds me of what is it, Doctor Strange or whatever, like the Marvel movies and everything, and like how he was a perfectionist, but he was, I mean, maybe in the past you were really drunk with your ego, right? But he was really drunk with his ego. But then later on, that actually having all that sense of himself helped him later, right? Like that was helpful to him later in his ability to bring impact and to be really powerful, and with the magic he was able to connect with and be wise, come up with creative solutions others would not have the level of belief around. Like, no, we're screwed. It's done. No, I worked it out. I figured it out, because he would just be relentless. And I see that with you. Like, you have that relentlessness. I think if I may offer this, I don't know, it's just coming through to share. I'm just sharing in the moment. My sense is like, the sense of something not coming together right, or the sadness or whatever, the waves can come in, and it can seem as though, well, maybe I should just chill out. Maybe I should just, and I think like that's fine, right? But then we have to realize that that's not who you are either, because I went through that too. And I'm guessing there's some of that coming up for you. But I went through that too. Well, maybe nothing matters. So why am I doing any of this? Or just one with the one, and I'll just sit here and stare at the flower all day. I mean, I get it. I'm in the rapture right now. I don't need to do a damn thing. There's nothing that ever needed to be changed in the first place. Kind of mentality. And then you can get caught up in that stuff. But it's fine wherever you are. But it's like, it's just these are all moments and phases and things that come up on the journey. There's the striving, then there's there's nothing else. I may as well just hang out here. We have to work with that as well as it comes up, as we see within ourselves, right? And then within our students, or the clients, or whatever we call them, right? Whoever's coming to us. And we're all dancing together here. So
Dancing as the one, for sure. Daniel, if anybody's a fan of Ram Dass here and they're watching this, they would say, hey, I think Pat's like, really pulling from the well of Ram Dass wisdom, which I always do because I hang out with that guy, even though he's without body. I'm just loving listening to him, and his teachings really resonate with me. He's always talking about how you have to embrace your humanity. And if you just go into like the spiritual guy only thing, then that's not it. There's still duality there. And if you're just going fully into the world and, disregard your spirit, then that's also not what it is. So how can we be, as Osho talked about it, Zorba the Buddha, this worldly player who knows who they are, and from that recognition plays and plays all in. Karma Yoga says, do your work, do it fully with all of your attention and your passion, but don't be clinging to the outcome, because that's a setup for disappointment. I think about, the dysfunction of being a perfectionist. I haven't really fallen into the trap as like the spiritually identified person who says it's all good and I don't have to do anything. Although you look at the Tao Te Ching and it says he does nothing, yet nothing is left undone. There's still action in that. It's just we're not identified as the actor. But what happens for me as a perfectionist is I'm trying to uphold and embody really idealistic virtues of nonviolence, truth, non-clinging. And if my thoughts, words, or deeds go against dharma or these virtues which I hold very high, then I feel like such a failure. And I fall from grace, and I hurt myself by holding myself so high, where there's not this layer of compassion which says, okay, you're human. To human is to err. So that's my ongoing struggle and journey, is to allow myself to fall, to understand that is grace. That shows me, where I've got to clean my game up. And this is an undulating path when we're still stuck in our separateness of getting high, close to God, and falling from grace and feeling bereft and summoning the courage to get back into yourself to, grow. And that is, I think, unavoidable in this game of spirit. Really quick, I remember my first fall when I started practicing yoga 15 years ago, and my teacher, he was so lovely. And I don't know what I had done, but maybe I had a big night out on the town and had too much to drink, or smoked a cigarette, did something that I felt like I blew it. I had a chance to take it all the way and I lost it. I failed, and he just laughed and he said, brother, this is the path. This is how it's going to be. So get used to it. And here we are. It continues to happen, but hopefully the falls are a little bit less severe and the getting back up happens a little bit more readily. So you don't delay. As Yogananda said, everything in life can wait, but the path to seek God cannot wait. You have to keep going. Life is too short to neglect cultivating your connection with the universe.
Right. Yeah, totally. And it's all very beautifully said. And I really agree with, the humanity part. There's some of that in me too, in the past, especially. Not so much, I don't think, lately, but you never know. You can fool yourself, right? It's kind of a constant battle. Like, am I actually being truthful about myself? Who knows sometimes, right? But it seems like in the past, I used to really grade myself hardly on certain things. Not everything, but certain things. I'd be like, all right, I've got to meditate exactly X amount of time per day, otherwise I'm failing, and all that kind of stuff, or those type of ideas. And I should eat this way, or I should not play video games, and I should do this, I should do that. And then one of my friends just says, I think you're just being too Puritan. It's okay to be human. If you want a glass of wine every once in a while, just go with it. Like, so to speak. Not even literally, but like just whatever it is. Like it's okay to be human. It's okay to be human. That's part of the dance, is to experience and your humanity fully. Like you said, like to be fully immersed in the human while being fully awake to the all, at the same time, is kind of the ongoing flow, and there's no static state in it. I think that's one of the biggest problems, is that we're starting to overcome, I think, more so than in the past. This isn't a static state we attain. It's an ongoing flow. And even people that tell me they're fully awake, any of them, I don't care, name it, Ram Dass, any of them, I say, no, you're not. No one's fully awake, so to speak. In the way that it points to an idea of a static state, and it's not true. There's a constant dance going on within every single being with all these things we're talking about. And I think like if that message could get more traction, it would be helpful to people a bit, because everybody just thinks like it's all or nothing. And it's not like that. It's not in that way, you know, that duality thinking, like you said. So I think that's so beautiful the way you put it. I really loved your articulation, the way you talked
Daniel.
about it. So thank you.
Thank you. You know, I appreciate that. And we have archetypes. We haven't gotten too much into that, but you know,
Yeah.
the spiritual master is an archetype. And I think that's just a setup, you know, for
Mm.
us who are so much stuck in our humanity, our minds, our habitual patterns of behavior. You know, I don't think that's a great goal. It's that desire for perfection, for this perfected archetypal state of being like, you know, the incarnate master. I think it's a lot, and it's maybe better to just go slow and to learn to love yourself and to be kind
Mhm.
and to learn how to forgive and to learn how to feel. For me, it's so important, and it's a very human part of who we are. And you mentioned spiritual bypassing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So all of these practices, all of these understandings, all of these higher planes of consciousness can easily skirt past the stash of unfelt emotions that are just waiting for us to embrace them, to sit, to see what's there. And slowly, slowly, maybe there's healing that happens inside your heart, which then would allow you to open to even more greater states of consciousness. But
Mhm.
another pitfall on the path is, and you can't get away with it for too long. You know, eventually you're going to have to come down and deal with the water of your emotional world, of your past, of your traumas. And men's work has a lot to do with that. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
it's called bucket work. You go to the lake, and one bucket at a time, you're emptying the lake. I mean, that's going to take a while, Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not
Right.
an easy
Look at
job.
the time. That's a lot of times.
Big lake, you know, Lake Michigan, if we're
Wow.
talking Chicago. So
Yeah.
we've got to start, and we've got to be aware that there's a lake there to address, and not just
Right.
continue to avoid it by numbing out, distracting ourselves, you know, bypassing it. Come
Right.
down, be brave. I think that the courage of the warrior is the one who's willing to feel the fullness of the human heart. In fact, that's the lover's archetype, is this
Yes.
range of motion in the heart space. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just to feel love and joy and wonder, but the embodied lover is capable and willing, probably with some of that edge of the warrior energy, to go in there and to look and to hold himself, and maybe to even reveal some of that to the circle of men that you're sitting with who you trust. There should be trust before you know, show your heart. But when there is, feels really powerful to be
Mm-hmm.
seen in your vulnerability, to expose, you know, these recesses of the heart that have not seen sunlight in a long time. So part
Mm-hmm.
of my job is to create space, safe space, whether we're in Peru with a mixed group of men, women, however you identify, men's group. I've even co-led some women's retreats with my partner, Catalina de Leon. I've decided the women's work works better with just women. Just like if
Mm-hmm.
you get a group of men together and you're doing this intimate work and a woman walks in, all of the guys are going to change. There's just something that happens
Yeah.
where you start to, you know, peacock, and just it doesn't work as
Yeah.
well in my experience. But yeah, the archetypes, and there's something to use as a compass, like the enlightened master. But I don't know if it's serving
Yeah.
for us to try to be the king. Let the king guide us. The king's energy.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about this before we did this show, and yeah, I love that you're bringing it up now. It's like, because yeah, the idea we have to attain again, like spiritual master, or be enlightened, or get awake, or you know, you gotta get there, you gotta get there, and um, how much of that do you have to let go of at the end of the day? All of it. You know, you have to let go of all of that stuff anyway. So there's all kinds of quotes about that, I'm sure, right? And I'm not great at pulling out quotes, but you know, in the end, it all has to go, basically, you know. So it will spare nothing. The path of enlightenment will spare nothing, you know.
Nice. I like that
Will
one.
add nothing to you. It's zero. Yeah, you're trying to acquire, right?
Sure.
That's so hilarious, right?
How to stay zero, I don't know, Daniel. And this is probably something that you teach people is to be zero, but to acquire, like to
Yeah.
be in the world, but not of the world. That's a delicate dance and
Right.
easily to get lost in that way. But really
Right.
amazing to help people sort that out. What's your tip? If you were to say like how to
Mhm.
stay zero or like, pure awareness, yet to go out and to make your dreams come true. How do I do both of those at the same time?
Yeah, I would say, you know, the meditation for me is foundational. I mean, I believe I have a lot more expansion and connection that's available to me for sure. I've gotten caught up in the mind um, as well. You know, there's been spiritual bypassing, there's been, you know, ecstasy, there's been samadhis, there's been willpower galore at moments. You know, like I've done the whole dance myself, and I would just say like what I find works well for me in terms of setting me in the right path is in that regard is the meditative practice, which doesn't, again, just like yoga or anything else, doesn't end at the end of a formal meditation. It's the ongoing being awake, being connected, listening, you know, if you could just listen, you know, if you could just listen, you know, and it's just, we don't listen. We're trying to, I don't hear anything right now. What's going on? I don't know. What should I do? And
Hmm.
listen. No, I don't hear anything. What's going on? And so the more you can just realize it's all there, really, and you just intently listen. You're not just like, well, just kind of hoping something pops in, and if it doesn't, oh well, I guess I'm screwed. Like, yeah, no, and so I can obtain and be safe and then do my thing or whatever, become enlightened. Oh, but it's an active opening, an active letting go, an active listening is another way of putting it. And the more we can be in that, and we can just truly be in that state, which I honestly, and in recent years, at times, I experimented. I like, well, maybe that's not enough. I gotta bring some of this mental energy and all this stuff in there, you know. And I found like that's not working. You know, that does not work well for me. What works well for me is to get more centered and just stay centered and to relax the mind. You know, but I tested it because I don't want untruth, right? Like, what if I get more active in my mind? What if I work on things harder?
Right.
Just that doesn't add up. It doesn't add up for me. So what adds up for me is when I'm just follow this magical flow.
Hmm.
Literally everything becomes like magic because it already is. I mean, I'm connected with the one. And it's just like, oh wow, a bunch of people are contacting me now, wanting to get on my calendar or wanting me to speak on a stage or this or that. And you know, all the things we hear like with manifestation in that sense are true. But it happens when you just start to get in that flow and you're trusting and you're taking massive action on the things you're being called to take massive action on. It's more like, oh my God, I got this talk I'm on. We get more people in the room and blah, 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 blah. But then I let go of it, right? It's not like I'm 24/7 in that mode. It's just, oh, that session's done. Okay. Now, okay, recenter. Because you're not going to be in the center all the time necessarily. At least that's not my experience. Maybe it's different for others, right? But for me, it's not. But you always come back to center. It's okay. Maybe you feel called. Maybe you believe you have to be off center to get this thing done. That's how I felt this morning. But I come back to the center. So that's been my experience so far. Yoga, things like that, working out, walks, breath work, whatever. There's massive lists, right, of things you can do. And I do utilize some of those things for sure, are all part of it. But it's really, you know, trusting that it's not that am I enough? It's trusting that what you're connected to is always enough. and just trusting that that is always enough and it's always moving in the right direction, but you have to listen intently. So, so that's how I could put it for today anyway.
Well said, Daniel. Just to
Yeah.
kind of reiterate what I heard you say, not word for word, but in summary, is that the meditative practice that is really important to you helps you cultivate a sense of silence so that you can listen,
Yes.
tunes your sensitivity so that you can feel this intuitive capacity that you have, that we all have, but there's so much typically going on between the ears that we're not quiet enough to get the message. So meditation is a great method. So is walking, working out, anything that you do to quiet the mind down so that you can hear the truth of the universe, which is just waiting for you to quiet down.
Exactly.
So,
Simmer down now. Simmer down.
simmer down. So what, for the listener, like what is the thing that you can do? It doesn't have to be, formal yoga practice. That you bring presence into it allows you to quiet the mind so you can start to flow in your life. Get out of your head into your heart and flow and dance with the universe. But the other point that you made is that you said trust, that this is always there supporting you. It's not going to let you down. And right when you started talking about this, I'm like, man, Daniel has a lot of faith.
Yeah.
That he's, not going to fall or lose if he lets the mind and the ego step aside and allows the universe to play through him. Like maybe you do that once, but then you say, no, I need this stuff. Like this is what works. Well,
Right.
You've experimented so many times that you've confirmed that this is
Right.
a stable way to go through life, to trust.
Right. Yeah, I still might reach out for the prop, like, no, I need this crutch still or whatever the sense is. But then you realize, well, I'm just playing games with this crutch. I don't need that. Okay, let go of that. And then if if you want to move through that quicker, so to speak, then yeah, you do the things you were pointing to earlier. Didn't talk about it much yet, but like, just like looking at the energy and the emotion that came up. Let's look at that now. Like, where's that coming from? And then when I look at that, a scene will come up. So when I'm like, okay, I got to get this done, and because I'm on a time frame. So the belief is you have to get frantic. Where else did I get frantic earlier in my life and thought I had to hurry up to catch up to get something done? Where else? I almost was left in a museum at Washington, D.C. in 8th grade because I was wandering around doing my own thing while everybody else was in a group. And I almost missed the bus. And I was the last kid on the bus. So I was like, oh, I should have been paying more attention. I got to be diligent. I got to focus. But yet magically it all worked out anyway. They were pissed off, but I mean, it was all magically worked out anyway. Like I found my way, it was fine. But then we overcompensate, right? Like, oh, like this overcompensation or whatever. People say I'm too weak. I need to lift more weights or whatever. Like, whatever it is. Like then, when we buy the lies, some of it, there's always these lies embedded within some truth, right? And then we're lost again. Like, okay, you got to be a strong man, okay? But what does that mean? Like, what does that mean, right? What does it mean? You can't be vulnerable? You can't be emotional? No, it means it means you can be strong in every aspect, just being who you are. And yes, there's a masculine strength. When I go into the gym to lift weights, if I'm going to be in an optimal state, I'm going to be more in a command state typically. Now I can go to transcendence, but that's no fun. Transcendence means I could just do whatever I want, right? Oh, this weight's easy now. But it's no fun. So I like to come in my masculine. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go to a personal best or whatever. Because that's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
Is fun.
I could be like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just lift the whole pile right now, or whatever it is, whatever. But and it's easy. Oh, that's no fun. We gotta act like it's a struggle, right? Okay, let's play the game. So I don't know. That's where I'm at with it. I have to wrap things up, but tell everybody where. Yeah, I'd love to talk more about this, but like tell everybody where they can check you out and come to your beautiful, wonderful retreats, etc.
That's nice, Daniel. It's been a joy to be with you. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
I've got a few folks to send your way that are great healers that could use your encouragement and gifts to help them step into their greatness. So that'll be fun to share. What I'm doing is Flourish. Flourish is a beautiful company based around building heart-centered community through shared experience. So we have maybe 5 or 6 retreats a year, men's retreat, women's retreat, Paradise, which is beachside, lots of practice, 4 sessions a day, all different types of modalities, really restorative, really connected. And then we do these pilgrimages, the spiritual epicenters of Earth. Last year was India, 5 cities in 13 days during Diwali festival. That was incredible and a lot, but we all expanded in magnificent ways. We're going to Peru this year. Next year, I imagine it's going to be Japan. It might be Thailand. I'm building both of those trips out right now. But we do local retreats. We have free online community calls called the Flourish Shala. You can find out all about this at BeFlourish, BeFlourish on Instagram, on YouTube. You can take a look inside all of our events. And then peaceloveflourish.com. If you really want to learn more, sign up, dive in. You can schedule a free discovery call with me at patsperrylove.com, and we can explore what's possible through well-being, coaching, men's work, and all things Flourish. So do that, and let's connect. And it'll be a lot of fun, Daniel. Thanks for the invitation to share.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that is so awesome. Yeah, you have all these wonderful experiences, and that you are here to help people in this profound way of learning to dance with the human and the spiritual, and through yoga and everything, and so much knowledge and wisdom that you have to bring. And I'm grateful for you coming on. It's been a ton of fun to have you on today, and I encourage everybody to check you out.
Love you, Daniel. Thanks for the kind words. Great to be here. See you again soon.
Okay. Yeah. Lots of love. Okay. We'll talk real soon. And everybody just absolutely check Patrick out. It's a good vibe to be in with Mr. Patrick Sperry here. Okay. Bye.
Very nice.
Thank you for listening in to Just Two Conscious Guys Talking, where our mission is to impact millions of men ultimately to deepen their awakening by examining their consciousness of what's been unfolding for them with male stereotypes and programming that has allowed them to have opportunities to evolve during these times. It's an exciting time to bring more love to men and women around the world, and we are grateful for you tuning in today. Feel free to share this episode and keep tuning in, and also look in the show notes for a link to get notifications of future episodes. Until the next time, everyone, goodbye for now.